Hello again, students. Good afternoon. This is part 2 of the earlier video, and I just want to pick up where we left off. So I'm going to go back into our assignment description, Unit 1 response essay. And if you recall, the earlier video ended right around here when I was just reminding you your audience is an academic audience who may or may not be familiar with the text. That's why you have the 2 summary paragraphs. Of course, I am familiar with the articles, but it's just a good best practice to not assume too much and have those 2 summary paragraphs. Purpose: to explain your reaction to a challenging text and make meaning out of the text. Your purpose is to connect with, respond to the 2 articles, and by make meaning, essentially toward the end of your essay, really kind of bring it all together in a meaningful response to the overarching topic. And that's going to vary by each paper and by each student and writer, because everybody's making slightly different meaning. There might be similarities, but you all have your own unique individual response to the 2 texts. So by responding in your own unique way, you're making your own meaning out of these articles. Okay, and of course, here are the 2 articles: Hide Your Phone When You're Trying to Work Seriously by Tim Herrera, Dopamine, Smartphones, and You, A Battle for Your Time by Trevor Haynes. So let's get to organization, and that's the primary focus of this part 2, this second lecture. I want to make sure that everyone's clear in how to organize your papers. Even though you've already written drafts of pretty much everything except the concluding paragraph, there was a little bit of confusion, and I think that was just because of that break in between our last, on-campus lecture. We had an extended spring break, and then we come back online, and so I think, it's easy to just sort of forget, quite frankly, after a while. So take a look at this organization that you are supposed to have. You need an introductory paragraph. You have 4 objectives in your introduction. You want to capture the reader's interests. You want to introduce the 2 articles, the 2 authors. You want to introduce your topic. This is kind of like a brief overview of the ideas. And again, the overarching topic is the distracting and addictive nature of technology, specifically social media apps on cell phones and laptops. So that's just a couple of sentences introducing the topic to your reader. And then you do need to state a thesis. Okay, this is the main idea. A thesis statement can be 1 or 2 sentences. It can be 1 long complex sentence, but it needs to give the reader sort of a gist and a summary of your unique response to the topic and the articles. Provide sort of all of your ideas, sort of summarize, your whole response to these 2 articles in 1 or 2 sentences. Okay, now that's what you break down and explain in more detail in the body paragraphs, how you connect to and respond to each article in very specific ways. But the thesis statement needs to give the reader the general idea, okay, a general focus. Here are some tips for engaging your reader at the beginning of your introduction. Use a quotation or an idea from the article that really stands out. Again, a bold quote, a bold statistic, just a really bold statement, anything to capture the reader's attention. A personal anecdote related to the topic, so like a little personal story, nothing too long, maybe 1 or 2 sentences. In the body of your paper, right, Roman numeral 2. This outline, by the way, this is a Roman numeral outline. Roman numeral 1, introduction. This is probably looking a little familiar to you, the 4 elements that you need in your introduction. The body of your paper, Roman numeral 2. Here's a description of what the body of your essay needs to look like. The body of your essay should include 2 paragraphs that summarize the articles to prepare your readers for your response. The summary should include enough information so that someone who hasn't read the article could understand your essay. After your summaries, elaborate and explain your reaction, your response to the articles. So imagine 5 distinct body paragraphs, that is 2 summary paragraphs and 3 paragraphs that really explain in some description and detail and elaborate in how you react to the articles or how you respond to the articles or how you connect. Really, I'm using all 3 words or verbs interchangeably: reacting, responding, and connecting to the articles. So after your summary, elaborate on ideas presented in the text: distractions, cell phone use, dopamine. At least one body paragraph must discuss how the texts are written. How do the authors engage readers, explain their ideas, describe or detail the topic, integrate research. So remember what I told you in the earlier video. I want to know, how you react to these texts, okay? And I also want you to talk a little bit about how each article is written. And again, when we're looking at the Trevor Haynes article, he engages readers with a lot of data, a lot of scientific data and statistics. He explains ideas as if he's a professor, an instructor. He really breaks the ideas down methodically, provides graphs and charts. He's very descriptive, very detailed, very formal, integrates, adds a lot of data from research, scientific research. On the other hand, Tim Herrera, which is a more informal opinion piece in the New York Times, he engages reader in a very conversational manner. He explains things in a very, very sort of simple, easy way, very user-friendly, way for someone to understand. And he does a lot of explaining through example of himself and personal anecdotes or stories. So, but he doesn't integrate a lot of data or scientific research, right? He mostly relies on personal stories. So this is how the 2 authors are different, how their articles are written differently. And so in just one of the body paragraphs, you need to, talk about this, okay? Explain what you agree and disagree with, and clearly articulate why. So the majority of your response paragraphs after the summaries are going to describe how you agree and disagree with the authors and their articles and their ideas, opinions. If you are persuaded to change your behavior, in other words, are the articles impactful enough for you to actually make some changes, and then a little bit about how they're written and maybe how that style influences or doesn't influence you, okay? So that's how you're elaborating in the body of your essay. Remember to use transitions between paragraphs. These are just bridges or transitional words to help flow from one paragraph to the next. And then finally, you need a concluding paragraph. The conclusion of your essay should wrap everything up you've discussed within the introduction and body of your essay. Wrap up, not restate. So you don't want to be repetitive here. A really nice way to think of a concluding paragraph is that it echoes what you stated in your introduction. So it's an echo, not a just straight reiteration or regurgitation. Don't summarize your essay or restate your thesis, just some final closing thoughts that echo the introduction. Find a new way to discuss your ideas. You could revisit your hook from an introduction. You can revisit how you started. Don't repeat or be repetitive, but revisiting is kind of like an echo. Demonstrate how this reading has changed the way you think of digital devices, smartphones, laptops, iPads, etc., or maybe you've rethought the place and role of technology in your life. So a couple different ways to wrap up, but as a general rule, you want to provide smooth closure. Don't open any new topics. You probably don't want to end on a question, which leaves your reader hanging. So kind of wrap it up all nice and neat, like putting a bow or tying a bow on a gift box, okay? And then finally, what are our essay requirements? At least 2.5 pages correctly formatted, 1-inch margins, double space, Times New Roman, 12-point font, no extra spacing between paragraphs, very important. Have an appropriate and original title. Have an introductory paragraph with a clear thesis statement that states the focus of your essay. Include 2 paragraphs that summarize each article. Have 3 or more response body paragraphs that each begin with a clear and focused topic sentence. Your paragraph should have specific examples and explanation or evidence to support those topic sentences. So this just means in your body paragraphs, make sure you're explaining and you're providing examples from the articles to support what you're saying about the articles. Have a concluding paragraph that brings everything to some smooth closure. Make sure you spell check and proofread. Very important. So what I'm going to do is, let's see if I can open up another document. Okay, I just want to get out of this document and I want to show you an outline structure. We might have to go into a part 3, another video, but we've got about 3 minutes left on this one. So here is essentially the same information, just a little more detailed, right? Your introductory paragraph explaining the same format in more detail. What do I mean by thesis statements? The focus of your paper. It should be a summary of your main idea and your response to the articles. You know, what do your summary paragraphs need to look like? How to format a summary paragraph. How to format those response paragraphs. A topic sentence, supporting sentences, explain and describe in rich detail your response and evaluation of the text. Do you agree or disagree? Do you relate, connect with the text? Was the information useful? Your reaction? Is it persuasive, impactful, etc.? All right, so that's another outline to take a look at. And then finally, I've included a second outline in here. And this one is a little different, but it's the same information. So a couple different ways to look at the same information. And if you don't, necessarily connect with it one way, you might connect with this outline a little better, right? It's another way of looking at your introduction, another way of looking at your summary paragraphs. What does your reader need to know about this article in order to understand the rest of your essay? Another way of looking at your response paragraphs. What ideas do you agree with and why? What do you disagree with? What have you noticed about how cell phones are affecting how we spend our time, how we interact with others? How does the author engage readers, explain ideas, describe and integrate sources? How does this work or article, how does all of this work to make the article successful? Any ideas you have on the topic from personal experience, and how to extend your thesis, maybe how to echo your thesis in the conclusion. This outline is more like a graphic organizer with these boxes. So you could print out this outline and then jot down some notes in the boxes. That might make it, a little easier to use. Same information, different style and visual aid. So all of this, which I have gone over, the essay description, the Roman numeral outline for organizing your essay, the graphic organizer for your first essay, and a link to each article. They're all here in the link for the final copy of Essay1. Right? It's due Sunday night. It's worth 100 points. And here's the rubric, right? Here's the rubric. So make sure you look at the rubric. All right, we're looking at, did you follow requirements? Did you meet the goals that are stated in the assignment sheet? Background, does the essay interact with the text in a meaningful way? Do you demonstrate familiarity with the articles? Organization, did you follow the required organization illustrated in the outlines in the assignment sheet? Finally, grammar and mechanics. Is this a very polished and professional final copy? Is it generally professional, but could be more polished? Mostly minor errors, or is it poor? Many serious errors. Okay, so that's everything. Let me know if you have any questions.